So let's try Dickerson Vineyard. As you can see, we have a new package. On the back of the package, we have some information. Let's find out what it says about this particular wine. It says that since 1976, no, that's not the part that I wanted you to read. What I wanted you to read is the number of cases we made of it, which tells you something about the size of the vintage relative to other vintages. In this particular vintage, Dickerson was 1,060 cases. Well, it wasn't 1,061 and a half, I don't know, but that's which is probably what it really was. And it was bottled in April. We bottled it a little bit earlier because the fruit was so pretty. We generally bottle in June. This particular vineyard is a really wonderful vineyard planted in Napa Valley. It's on Zinfandel Lane. Where else would you find good Zinfandel but on Zinfandel Lane? You know, that's the first place I went when I was looking for Zinfandel in Napa Valley. It's in that Napa Valley soil. It's a Bale clay loam. It says so right here. Yeah, and it is pretty typical. You know, Napa Valley was really famous for Zinfandel and Petit Syrah well before it was famous for Cabernet Sauvignon. So this was planted in 1920, so it was planted just before Prohibition. You would think that that would be a really awful thing, but it turns out it's not so awful because there were a lot of home winemakers during Prohibition, and they used these grapes and kept them alive until we could restart the California wine business. It was also a vineyard that was planted on the first leaf roll infected rootstock in Napa Valley, and what that meant is that it affects the metabolism of this vine, and it changes the way the grapes taste. You know, this vineyard is in Napa Valley, but it actually thinks metabolically that it's on the Sonoma coast. It thinks it's really cold over there in Napa Valley. Boy, is it mistaken. But what that means is that the fruit stays in that kind of red zone. There's another component to this wine, though, that really sort of changes the whole nature of it and makes it as a wine that could only be grown in one of maybe two places, Australia or California. There are a couple of other places that it might be grown, but that's because there is a gigantic eucalyptus tree next to it. So let's taste this 2007 Dickerson Vineyard and see what the heck it tastes like. Yeah, pretty nice. Just checking to make sure it is in fact Dickerson. Don't want to be fooled. I always taste better without my glasses on. So yeah, that bridge, you know, pinches my nose. Nah, not really. Wow, that is Dickerson Vineyard. That is so terrific. That is, it's got that wonderful cedar, raspberry, minty quality to it. It comes just kind of screaming out of the glass at you. There's no mistaking it. This is one of those wines that people love because they can put it in a lineup of wines and they can pick it out immediately. Makes them all taste like wine tasters. And think like wine tasters because they have to think about that spice, and that red fruit, that eucalyptus, that raspberry. Oh, pretty. Now when I say eucalyptus, sometimes you think Australian wines, you think Sirius Koala, you think like dominant kind of minty, herbal, you know, sauna, steam bath kind of stuff, you know? Well, not this. This is so well integrated into the red fruit that you almost don't know it's there. But very pretty. And wow, really lovely color. I am so pleased with this wine. It's really good. It's got that really typical Dickerson Vineyard acidity. Once again, because of the leaf roll virus, the pH stays lower, the acid stays higher, meaning what that does to a wine is it makes it really fresh. If you look at the color of this wine, you can see it's got a really red edge to it. So it's like mouth watering. It just goes and just like makes your mouth come alive. And then you, if you don't slop it in your beard, hopefully if you're a woman you don't have one, it kind of moves to the back of your mouth and just hangs and hangs. You get a little bit of the vanilla. You get all that sort of red fruit. This is a wine that has got such great acidity that it actually goes really well with fish. Red wine and fish, people talk about it. I mean, obviously it goes very well with Asian food too, but I had this wine with planked salmon, last month, and it is so good. It's one of those magical pairings because you have all that nice fattiness from the salmon and the smokiness associated with the salmon. And then you get this kind of raspberry lift. It's like an explosion in your mouth. It's really terrific. So, lovely, lovely bottle of wine. Wonderful old vineyard. It was originally owned by a friend of my family's, who I ran into much later. His name was Bill Dickerson, hence Dickerson Vineyard, who loved wines. He was a psychiatrist, which probably explains why this wine is so well adjusted. So, enjoy it.